Welcome to Torah Today Ministries. My name is Grant Luton.
And my name is Robin, and we are looking forward to continuing our discussion on Pirkei Avot,
Pirkei Avot.
which is what we were reading during the time of the counting of the Omer.
Right. And it's been a busy few weeks.
It has.
And so we're just now getting around to doing the second part of Pirkei Avot. And the first one, we looked into the first three chapters.
Because there are only six altogether. Right.
So in this one, we'll look at the last three. And while we're at it, we just want to wish congratulations to Brandon and Kira Rose, who were married just almost a week ago, last Tuesday. Brandon is the editor. He's the one who makes the magic happen at his computer.
This wouldn't happen without him.
It would not be happening without Brandon. So congratulations to these two lovebirds. And we look forward to them coming home from their honeymoon so Brandon can get back to work editing videos and podcasts for us.
Right.
So, Robin, why don't you start us off? We're in chapter 4 of Pirkei Avot again. And what are you going to start with?
I want to start with the fact that we're not having this time of conversation recorded for people to listen to because we have anything clever or important to say.
Right.
We are here to talk about what the fathers have taught us.
That's right.
And the ethics of the fathers is so packed with wisdom. Yes. It's only been less than a week since we've been looking at these sayings every night, Grant.
For 7 weeks.
Right. And it's only been a few days that we haven't been doing it. And when I picked the book up this morning to continue so that we could finish up this conversation, I thought, man, it's like a friend I've missed already.
Oh, I know. It's amazing.
I miss the connection with these ideas because they ring so deep. So to start out, I didn't get very far when I selected chapter 4, verse 1.
Okay.
Do you want to read it or do you want me to?
No, go right ahead.
Okay, it says, "Who is wise? He who learns from every person, as it is stated in Psalm 119, from all those who have taught me, I have gained wisdom. Indeed, your testimonies are my conversation."
So who is wise? What's the answer?
He who learns from every person. And then the second part is who is strong. It's he who subdues his evil inclination, as it is stated in Proverbs. And then should I go on to read what Proverbs says about this? Is that okay?
Sure, go right ahead. It's Proverbs 16:32.
Yes, it says, "He who is slow to anger is better than the strong man, and he who masters his passions is better than one who conquers a city."
So, who is wise? The one who learns from every person. Who is strong? The one who subdues his personal or evil inclination. And then there's another question.
The next question is, who is rich? The answer is, he who is happy with his lot, or with what he has.
Yeah.
As it is stated in Psalm 128, verse 2, "When you eat of the labor of your hands, happy are you, and it shall be well with you. Happy are you in this world, and it should be well with you in the world to come."
That's
Doesn't
wonderful.
get much better than that.
And then there's a fourth question.
There is. The final question I find probably the most interesting for some reason. It's who is honored? And the answer is he who honors others. As it is stated in 1 Samuel 2, verse 30, "Indeed, those who honor me, I will honor, and those who despise me shall be degraded."
Yeah. So those four questions are four questions that I think every child, every young person grows up. Who is wise? Who is strong? Who is rich? Who is honored? In other words, how do you get to be wise and strong and rich and honored? And this gives us four very practical answers to that.
And I think that the whole world is full of people trying to convince others that they are wise and strong and rich and worthy of honor.
Yeah.
And it can fall flat.
Yeah.
And it can really expose the
That's
opposite.
right.
So let's talk about it a little bit.
Sure.
Why did you select this verse?
Well, it's funny. I'm writing this article to post on the Torah Today Ministries website called "How to Be a Human Being."
Ooh,
And
I like that.
And I discussed there why why is it that wisdom is just so hard to come by for
Elusive.
human beings?
It really
Yeah.
is.
How we as human beings are kind of missing some lines of code. Other animals, they don't have to go to school to be
Right.
successful
Right.
and being a cow or a monkey. But we have to learn how to be a human being.
We do.
And so wisdom is something we must have. And,
And
so
it
says,
doesn't come naturally.
it does not come naturally to us. So who is wise? He who learns from every person. And I'm thinking of Solomon. He says, go to the ant, you sluggard. In other words, you're a sluggard, you're a lazy bum because you don't have wisdom. And go to the ant, learn from the ant how to be wise and work. And so even ants can be our teachers.
So this means that every single person we encounter is part of the divine curriculum
Yes.
that God has assigned to our life. And that's hard to remember when there is someone in our life that just is annoying or hurtful or rubs us the wrong way in many ways. And when I am aware that this is a teacher for me, it really brings down the level of irritation.
Yeah.
And it requires a humility that I often am not able to grasp.
That's right.
You know, it's funny, Grant. I think that we all tend to walk through life in our own devices with a clipboard mentally. We walk into a room and measure people.
We do.
And
it's horrible.
we look around and we think, who measures up to my standards? And those are the ones that I'm going to gravitate towards. Who are we to decide that, really?
I think sometimes for me, I decide who's going to be my friend based on who's going to require the least from me. In other words, who's it easiest to be with? But God sends me people that I have to work on myself to be with. You know, like you pray for patience. And then what happens? That one person who it's hardest to be patient with is the one who just drops by. But God's answering our prayer.
And they turn out to be really cool friends.
They do.
They do.
Yeah.
One thing that I've really come to appreciate as I've studied Musar, which is, we've talked about that in other broadcasts.
Biblical discipline.
Right, right. Instruction that helps us attain wisdom. We can't seek honor.
No.
And I think some of us, I know I'm guilty, we tend to gravitate toward the people that we feel are giving us our due honor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if people can't or don't, well, then maybe we'll just move on. And it's really embarrassing to even admit that.
Yeah, we like to surround ourselves with people who will admire us, who see us as we see ourselves. And that is not helpful. In fact, it's quite damaging to us.
We are told to flee from honor. The sages say, flee from requiring honor for yourself, because the minute you begin to think you deserve it, you spiral down into a pit of just ego and self-pity.
Well, the Talmud has a saying that the one who runs after honor will come in behind the one who flees from honor. So we're to flee from honor. And I think of the times that Yeshua, he'd be surrounded by the crowds. They're wanting to make him king. And what did he do? He fled and he hid from them.
He even said, don't even share what you've seen here today.
Don't tell anybody about this.
That is not what this is about. I think that when we even subconsciously crave honor from others, that our sense of self and others gets really distorted.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a self-check for me when I become judgmental and frustrated and have a hard time enjoying the company of my friends. I'm probably on that scale of requiring something of them that is only egocentric.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, I think we become too conscious of the people who are watching us, and so we want to impress them and get honor from them. And we become unconscious of God, who's constantly watching. He never slumbers or sleeps, never blinks, and he is writing everything down in a book. But the honor he gives is eternal honor.
Let's talk about the word honor, though. We keep using this word, and The question that is probably in the minds of some listeners, and I was wondering this morning, let's return to the definition, the biblical
Sure.
definition of honor.
Well, the word, and I'm looking here at the Hebrew of Pirkei Avot, and it's the same word being used here, is the word kavod.
Right. Which
And
doesn't that mean weight?
It means glory, it means honor, and it means weight.
Right.
The fifth commandment says to honor your father and your mother. It's the word kavod. You give them weight. So when we honor someone, what we're doing, we're saying this person really matters. This person has gravitas. That's a word that's become fashionable.
Or we might say they are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
You know,
In
something
other
like
words,
that.
they have gravity. They
Yes.
really,
Yes.
their presence is felt. And we want that for ourselves. And that's a natural human desire. God has put that desire within us. But he tells us then how to get honor, and that is by honoring others, by being humble, by not seeking honor, and by trusting him, following him, that he is going to reward us.
And remembering that every single person, every human, has a soul that is sourced in the same source.
Yes.
We all come from him, and none of us have more weight
right.
than another. God invites us to work on our soul, and there are some souls that are more developed and fuller with light and life, but even that is grace.
That's right.
It's a gift, right?
That's right.
And I've also been thinking this morning as we've been preparing for this, it isn't enough to just feel honor for another. I think it's important we act on it.
Absolutely.
Because you know what? Soul traits are virtues in action. Otherwise, they're not really a virtue.
That's right. That's so true. I think what we need to do is worry less about people seeing us and focus more on seeing other people.
Really.
And
Absolutely.
I've noticed so many times, I see it among believers, especially less mature believers, when they meet you, they want to start telling you about themselves. My teachings are out there. I've been around for, I'm 72 years old. And so I've been teaching for a long time. Teachings are out there. So when people meet me for the first time, rather than just be themselves and just getting to know each other, they want to start telling me about the teachings they've done, what they've read, what they've studied. And it's like, I'm not competing with you. God bless you for that. But don't feel like you have to earn my honor and respect. Just be you. I want to know you. But a lot of times people feel they have to start telling you all about their accomplishments. And it's like, knock it off.
And then on the same note, often ego will express itself not by being braggadocious, but by being kind of self-deprecating.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They go overboard, or we, I should say, can go overboard just kind of putting ourselves down. And it's just not attractive.
Yeah. Well, in Philippians 2, excuse me, starting in verse 5, we're told, have this attitude in yourselves, which was also in Messiah Yeshua. Now, what was the attitude he had? And it starts with, who, although he existed in the form of God, what did he do? He did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, like Adam did. So he stepped down. Then he steps down again. It says, but he emptied himself. He humbled himself again, taking the form of a bondservant. But then he humbled himself more, being made in the likeness of men. He humbled himself more. Being found in the appearance of a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, and then humbled himself again. What kind of death? Even death on a cross. 7 steps down, you count. But then look what it says. Starting in verse 9, we see 7 steps in which God honored him. For this reason also, number 1, God highly exalted him. 2, bestowed on him the name which is above every name. 3, so that the name of Yeshua every knee will bow of those who are in heaven. 4, and of those who are on earth. 5, and all those under the earth. 6, that every tongue will confess that Yeshua the Messiah is Master. 7, to the glory of God the Father. So Yeshua focused on humbling himself. God focused on elevating him. And that's why we're told, humble yourselves in the eyes of the Lord. In due time, he'll lift you up. We focus on honoring ourselves, but the one who lifts himself up will be humiliated.
Yeah, yeah. So when we come into the presence of others, we don't need to put ourselves down. We don't need to brag. We don't need to flatter. No. If we just approach people with the awareness that they are an expression of God in your life, it helps us to really enjoy life more.
That's right. So if we want to imitate God, this is what we do. God sees us. And if we want to imitate him, see others.
Right.
See other people and engage them.
Yeah.
And God doesn't talk about himself.
No.
He talks to us about us.
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
So, we've spent about half our time.
I know, and I knew we would, because that one just
it was
really
worth it.
Summarizes the wisdom of the word, because basically, if you want to be great in his kingdom, you learn to serve.
So I'm just curious, did you pick the second verse as well from chapter 4?
I did not, but apparently you did.
I did.
All right, what does it say?
It says, run to perform a minor mitzvah. A mitzvah is a commandment or a good deed. Run to perform a minor mitzvah and flee from sin. For one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah, and one sin leads to another sin. For the consequence of a mitzvah is a mitzvah, and the consequence of a sin is a sin.
Wow.
So it says run even to do a minor commandment. We tend to kind of drag our feet even to do a major one, but to run to do a minor one.
Like search for opportunities.
Yes.
Look around and look for ways. I know a few people who are really good at this. It's so tempting to name a name. I don't know, would that even be appropriate? But
I'll leave that to you.
I'm going to name a name.
Okay.
We have a dear friend. His name is Brian.
Yeah.
And every time I'm with him, no matter what's going on, I see him looking for opportunities to serve people without drawing attention to himself.
That's for sure.
He really does.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I try to emulate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Brian and others as well, they've caught this truth that each mitzvah, each commandment is an opportunity, first of all, for me to show love for God. But second of all, to bring my life in alignment with God's ways. Because every commandment is an expression of what God does, how he does things, what's important to him. So we run to do a minor mitzvah. What we're doing is we're making a minor correction in our soul. We're aligning our soul to be more like God.
And these aren't grandiose things,
No.
because that is what our ego thinks is important. These are things that just make other people's lives better.
But the wisdom in the way this is worded, it talks about how one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah, one sin leads to another sin. So run to do a minor mitzvah. Because here's what we do. We look at a small commandment, think, that's not important, I'm not going to do it. But we look at a small sin, say, that's small, I will do that.
Right, because it's okay.
Isn't
it doesn't
that
matter.
something? The Talmud has this brilliant saying. It says, at first, the evil inclination is like the thread of a spider's web, and in the end is like the ropes of a wagon.
Oh, it's true. It's true. I guess the way I perceive this verse is I've noticed through the years that when I do one tiny little thing right, all of a sudden there's another door for me to walk through, and life gets better, and it gets bigger and grander. But when I take a step to do something selfish, it's like a door opens for me to walk through, and life gets darker and smaller. And the doors are going to continue to open for us accordingly.
Yes, that's so true.
Well,
What else do you have from chapter 4?
well, I didn't get past the next one,
well.
Grant, which really piggybacks on everything we've kind of discussed. It says, do not regard anyone with contempt, and do not reject anything. For there is no man who does not have his hour, and no thing that does not have its place.
Isn't that the truth?
In other words, a wise man learns from everyone and everything.
Right.
And I looked at this word contempt this morning, and I've become so very aware that to the degree that we hold contempt for anyone in our life, to that degree, everything we see and everyone we see in a distorted way.
Yeah.
We can't see clearly.
That's right.
To the degree there's contempt held, even if we think a person has earned it
Yeah.
because they've done something vile,
Right.
that perception of them and holding it in our own soul is going to distort our ability to see clearly.
That's so true.
And it's really tough to let it go
It is.
sometimes.
Well, you know, these sayings in Pirkei Avot were well known in the first century. And I think I mentioned in the previous episode that it's quoted well over 100 times in the New Testament
Isn't that
scriptures.
amazing?
Yeah.
So it's very, very relevant.
Well, I put in the margin of my copy, Pirkei Avot, I put 1 Corinthians 4:5 because it goes along with what this says. And Paul is writing, says, "Therefore do not go on passing judgment before the time. But wait until the Lord comes, who will both bring to light the things hidden in the darkness and disclose the motives of men's hearts. And then each man's praise will come to him from God." So in other words, don't be scornful of any person.
Yeah.
They're sent by God for some purpose that you may not be able to see right now.
And this doesn't mean that our dearest, closest soulmates are going to be the people who are dangerous or foolish. It just means that we realize it isn't our job to hold contempt and judgment for them. Because I really have come to realize that the way we measure others is the way we'll be measured. And
Yes.
Not only in the world to come, but it affects the way we see life here and now.
That's right. That's
We
so true.
have to see people favorably to the degree we can, and
Yes.
then the rest of it we let it go.
That's right. Catch people being good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, there's so many here in chapter 4. 4 is
Packed.
probably the most jam-packed, concentrated
It's
with
just dense.
with
Yeah.
deep wisdom.
Yeah.
But I like this one, just so simple. Verse 19. "It is not in our power to explain either the tranquility of the wicked or the suffering of the righteous." So in other words, it's not in our power.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I know someone right now who's just one of the best people I know, and she's going through something really difficult. And sometimes I go to prayer, and when she comes to my mind, I'm like, "Father, don't you see this?"
Yeah.
And
does.
he reminds me, I not only see this, but I see eternity, which you don't, Robin, and all will be well.
That's right.
And boy, I do well to remember that.
Yes, that's so true. I'm going to do 2 more, just read them with a little comment.
Okay.
In chapter 4, verse 21, it says, "This world is like a lobby before the world to come.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
Prepare yourself in the lobby so that you may enter the banquet hall." So this is the powder room for the world to come. So get yourself together, get everything straight, have oil in your lamp, because this is the preparation before we're birthed into the world to come. And then the one right after that, verse 22, it says, better one hour of repentance and good deeds in this world than the entire life of the world to come. And better 1 hour of spiritual bliss in the world to come than the entire life of this world. Now that's an oxymoron. But what the sages, they all comment on this, and what they say is, while we're here, all we want is to know what the world to come is like, when there's peace, there's joy, there's no more illness, sickness,
And
suffering,
everything makes
poverty.
sense,
Everything's
finally.
going to be wonderful. And so
Yes.
we're working here to prepare ourselves for the world to come. But they say there's one regret we'll have when we get there. We'll realize I can no longer do commandments. I can no longer impact the world. I can no longer change myself or help other people to change. I can no longer do a mitzvah for anybody. And my one regret in the world to come is I can't come back here for at least an hour
And do it
to
right.
do more for God's kingdom.
Yeah.
Because when I get there, it's too late. That's why I'm always telling people, live your life here as if this is your second chance.
Isn't
Because you
that
don't get a
powerful?
second chance.
That really is.
So that's chapter 4. Our time is gone, but
Oh, let's squeeze in.
No, we
a
have 5 or
few
6 minutes
more.
left.
In chapter 5, I landed on verse 21.
Well, let me start then with the first 6. I'm not going to read them. I promise I'm not going to.
Okay, go ahead.
Chapter 5 is different. It has a different tone.
Yeah, explain
it starts off with lists of 10 in the
Right,
Bible.
right.
And then it goes to lists of 7s, and then lists of 4s, and then it has a scattering of other things.
And every single one of them is
Yeah.
profound.
Oh, they are. So just in summary, the first verse, discusses how the world was created by 10 utterances. Vayomer Elohim, and God said 10 times in the creation of the world. The second verse is how there are 10 generations from Adam to Noah. The next verse, there are 10 generations from Noah to Abraham. The next one discusses how Abraham was tested 10 times. And then the next verse talks about the 10 miracles God performed in Egypt to bring his people out. And then the next one talks about how the Israelites tested God 10 times in the wilderness. So there are these lists of 10s, and there are more, but they're fascinating to read, and it really gets the wheels turning. And but anyways,
That was really hard for you, wasn't it? To mention those things and not.
Oh no, I just want to mention them
talking
and then have people say, I want to know more. Well, get Pirkei Avot and read it.
Well, we want to talk about them more too, but we just can't.
Yeah, let's go to the one you had.
All right, so in verse 21, it says, delve and delve into the Torah, for everything is in it. With it you will perceive. Grow old and worn over it, and do not stir from it, for you can have no better portion than it. According to the pain is the reward. And I thought to myself, you have to be willing to go beyond your comfort level a little bit every day in order to extract what is so
Yes.
very valuable in the Torah. You can't be indifferent and you can't be lazy, or you're not going to really gain the benefit that God has for us.
That's right.
In his word. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
It's so easy to disregard and to leave behind and to move past. But when I stop, to the degree that I'm willing to invest in it, I can just inhale his blessing and recognize the glory of everything he's doing in the world. Otherwise, I just get in a funk immediately.
Well, as you're talking, Robin, it reminds me that man came alive and God breathed into his nostrils a breath of life, the neshama of life. So we breathe physical air to keep us physically alive, but God breathed into Adam's nostrils the neshama of life, something that was utterly spiritual, for Adam to have spiritual life. Well, there's plenty of air here for me to breathe physically, but where do I find the spiritual air that keeps me vibrant and alive spiritually? Well, Paul tells us, 2 Timothy 3:16, he says, for all scripture is inspired of God. In other words, it's God-breathed. The word, the Torah, is our spiritual aqualung.
It is.
And we have to keep breathing that air if we want to maintain healthy spiritual life. We just all the time be breathing it in. And that's why I think God tells Joshua, this book of the Torah shall not depart out of your mouth. In other words, you're always talking about it. You're always breathing it. You're always meditating on it.
You're chewing on it because it's our food.
Yes,
and
all the time.
You're drinking it because it's our water. And I know that sometimes it's tempting to read books that people have read about books, that people have read about books about the word, about his Torah. But when you drink it directly for yourself, it's pure. I want to go back to the pure source.
It's like eating pre-chewed food.
Yeah, or water with a bunch of stuff floating in it. Let's go back and eat and drink from the pure river.
I agree. Amen.
There's just nothing like it. Even if you read something you don't completely understand, trust that it's going in and doing its work in your soul, and it's going to somehow bring you to a higher level of life.
Yes. Well, if I can piggyback on that, this is verse number 7 from chapter 6.
Yeah.
And here the the one who's speaking is quoting a number of passages from Proverbs. So I won't give all the references from Proverbs, but the quotes all come from Proverbs. And this is what he says.
I have this one too. I love this
great.
Grant.
It says, "Great is Torah, for it confers life upon its practitioners, both in this world and in the world to come. As it is said, quote, for the teachings of the Torah, are life to those who find them and a healing to his entire flesh. And it says, quote, it shall be healing to your body and marrow to your bones. And it says, quote, it is a tree of life to those who grasp it, and its supporters are praiseworthy. And it says, quote, they are a garland of grace for your head and necklaces for your neck. And it says, quote, it will give to your head a garland of grace, a crown of glory it will deliver to you. And it says, quote, indeed, through me, the Torah, your days shall be increased, and years of life shall be added to you. And it says, quote, lengthy days are at its right, and at its left are wealth and honor. And it says, quote, for lengthy days and years of life and peace shall they add to you.
What more can be said
and
about the
how
word?
In the world could people say, well, the Torah's been done away with? So all those wonderful things are done away with?
Well,
no wonder the enemy wants us not to study the Torah.
This verse encapsulates the very reason that we take time to do Torah today.
That's exactly right.
Because it's what the Torah offers us that matters.
Right.
And we just hope to be a conduit or a mouthpiece without polluting it with our own opinions that would make it fuzzy for people. We want people to return to its source.
Yes.
To the source. And just
their
really
spiritual
draw
food.
life. Yes.
Yes. It's our spiritual air. It's our spiritual meat and drink. And if we learn how to read it and study it and just continue to labor over it, the rewards it brings, you can't even begin to describe.
You know, I don't even remember what the product was, but years ago there was this ad and it went like this: try it, you'll like it. And if you've never really spent time in the, especially in the beginning of the Bible, those beautiful books,
Genesis,
the foundation books, the 5 books of Moses, if you've just not quite dug in because it felt elusive or too hard to understand, we really encourage you to just begin to read and think and pray, and you're going to love it.
Right.
And if
you'll
you have
acquire
read
a
it,
taste for it even
and you
more.
think there's nothing more to learn, then you're foolish.
Yes.
Because there's always so much more to learn, because it's it's eternal and it's alive.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing this.
That's right. And I
Right?
think that's a good way to end it. Yeah.
Well,
is
I
there,
hope
Is there a final one you wanted to read?
No,
is that good?
That just wraps everything up. It just brings tears to my eyes because it's so powerful and true. And my hope and prayer is that people are excited to taste and see how good he is.
Right. Amen to that. Taste first, and then your eyes will be opened. You can see. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, thank you for listening in on Robin's and my conversation about Pirkei Avot. And until next time, we wish you shalom and may God bless.
Shalom, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for today's teaching. If the work of Torah Today Ministries has touched your life, please consider making a donation or sponsoring an upcoming video. As a video sponsor, you'll have an exclusive opportunity to memorialize a family member, celebrate a special event, or simply support the ongoing creation of similar content. Your tax-deductible contribution helps ensure that our teachings continue to reach all who are longing for truth. Click the link or visit our website to learn more.